Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I think we're going to have a really excellent conversation today. Whether you're tuning in live, whether you're watching the recording, I hope that you have a lot of insights and takeaways from this. And we're really excited to be partnered here between Student Energy and Energy Institute, both two global organizations doing a lot of work to support young people in the clean energy transition. So to kick us off, we're going to hear a little bit more. I'll be speaking from Student Energy, and then we'll be hearing more about the Energy Institute before we dive into the panel discussion today. Raji, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. So my name is Piper Stump, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently based in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is on the unceded ancestral traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I am the Global Community Manager at Student Energy, so I manage our chapters program, but I also do work across our entire program ecosystem to ensure that there is unitement. We do have opportunities for everyone within our ecosystem. I'm really excited to chat more about Student Energy and talk about the power of young people in the sustainable energy transition. I know we have people here who are familiar with Student Energy and some of those who are not. So I'm excited for everyone to kind of be on the same page here. To those of you who are new to Student Energy, we are a global youth-led organization and a registered charity. We're based out of Canada, but we have global programs that work to empower the next generation of energy leaders, accelerating the transition towards a sustainable and equitable energy future. So what we do is we facilitate meaningful youth engagement and mobilize resources to support youth-led energy solutions by engaging governments, companies, organizations. We have a program ecosystem that offers youth multiple approaches to learning and diverse opportunities to engage in the transition. So we meet young people where they're at. We're focused on youth training and capacity building, as well as partnerships with public and private sector. And we do have a network of over 50,000 young people in 120 countries, which is really, really exciting. An awesome network to be a part of, and we love to continue to grow it. It's young people between 18 to 30 is the age range of our youth network. Next slide, please. So Student Energy has a very interesting origin story that I'd love to share quickly. There was a group of students out of the University of Calgary, which is in Alberta in Canada. If you're unfamiliar with the context of energy within Canada, Calgary is very much the heart of oil and gas sector within the country. And so there was a group of students who were really passionate about the energy transition, but felt like they didn't have a say. There was no space to engage. The conversation was very much dominated by government, industry, people who had been in the sector for a really long time. So they had this really bold, ambitious idea to host an international summit, and they invited young people, but as well as industry experts and government from across the globe to the University of Calgary for a summit, but they made sure that the dialogue, the agenda, the conversations were set by young people. So it was an energy conference for young people by young people that included everybody in the discussion. Since then, that's where Student Energy started. We've had an international summit every other year. It's gone on to Norway, Bali, Mexico, the UAE, London. We even had a virtual international summit during that wild COVID time. What's really exciting is that we do have an upcoming summit in February 2026 in Manaus, Brazil, that you will hear me talk a little bit more about later. So a really exciting opportunity to get involved. The way that Student Energy operates is we have our end goal, which is a sustainable, equitable, just, clean energy future. And we use backwards mapping to identify how we're going to get there. So these boxes in the middle of building change agents and creating space for youth to act are really the two main places that we exist. So that's our programs, our capacity building, and then also advocating for spaces within institutions that are already established for youth to be involved in the energy transition. Next slide, please. So we have our Student Energy program ecosystem. It's kind of chaotic to look at face value right here, but we build all of our programs to focus on tangible and practical experience to support young people. So we do believe that a systems approach is required to achieve this sustainable and equitable energy future. We have different tiers of action as you move through from think it all the way down to sustain it. So I'm excited to share a little bit more about just a few of the programs that we do currently have running that we do offer at Student Energy. Next slide, please. And one of our programs that we do offer is this dynamic, freely accessible energy education tool that we have to offer that really covers so many facets of the world of energy. It's an interactive educational tech platform, so it brings energy information to young people through this our interactive energy systems map. It is on our student energy website. You can find it there. It's used by students and educators, independent learners all across the globe. So it's reached over 3 million global users, and our videos just reached 8.3 million visitors, which is really, really exciting. So it's built by youth, for youth, to interact with. Obviously, everyone is welcome to interact with, but it's really built with young people in mind. Next slide, please. Another way to get involved in student energy is through our chapters program, which is near to my heart because I manage this program. Chapters are essentially post-secondary hubs of student energy that allows post-secondary institution students to initiate a branch of student energy on their campus to take localized action on energy within their communities. So essentially, it's a student club. It's a really exciting opportunity because it has this localized context of what does your community need, and then you get to leverage Student Energy's brand, our resources, the opportunities that we have to really take action on whatever it is that you're passionate about within your own school, within your own town, your own municipality. So we offer students tools and resources that they need to lead the sustainable energy transition. Next slide, please. As of October 2025, we have over 55 chapters in 30 countries. We have almost 6,000 members that are currently engaged in the chapters program. So in turn, these chapters have engaged around 27,000 people in 2025. So our community is constantly growing. We're always looking for new applications to our chapters program. It's on our website on how to start a chapter. If you are interested, there will be links and more information on how to get involved, but that is one way to do so if you are at a post-secondary institution anywhere across the globe. Next slide, please. Also, something that we do offer is our mentorship program. So this is available to anyone within our program's ecosystem. We have a network of just around 300 mentors from professional spaces all across the globe. They offer mentorship on whether it be project development, a one-time meeting, you just want to sort some things out, or whether that be a long-term mentorship for your own personal professional development. This is a resource that we do offer to all youth that are within our program's ecosystem. Next slide, please. We also have our career training program, which is a really exciting program. Essentially, it runs like a 4-month cohort. And what it does is it builds skills and resources and project development focused on career development. So our current cohort, next slide please, is specifically focused on women in energy in Africa. So we're partnered with Enel Foundation and Res for Africa, which is really exciting to have this localized context in what we're doing, but it's really focused on kind of matching youth within the program to project partners and developing solutions to issues within the energy sector that will then give real experience, but also resume building and hopefully allow young people to graduate from the program and be employed within the energy sector. Next slide, please. We have our guided projects program, which is our most hands-on technical program that we offer at Student Energy. So the previous cohorts that have run have been solar photovoltaic installation projects. So we offer training and skill development all the way from the very start of kind of just like project ideation all the way to implementation and installation. It's run for, I believe, 2 cohorts, each of which had around 8 to 10 projects of solar PV installation. So the next cohort that we run might not be solar PV installation. It could be something different depending on what we feel the needs of the energy transition and also youth within energy might be. But really exciting opportunity to get involved. Next slide, please. We have our 7Gen program, which is our Indigenous youth program. This is focusing on Indigenous youth that reside in what is currently known as Canada. They also have an summit, which happens every other year as well. Most recently, it happened in Iqaluit in Nunavut, which is within the north in the subarctic of Canada, which was really excellent because it allowed representation and Northern voices to be the focal point of the conversation, who are historically left out of these conversations that we have, not only within energy, but also all of the country. Next slide, please. I'm running through all of this quickly, but we will share the slides. I just don't want to throw too much information at you all at once. One of our new programs that we're currently offering is the Clean Economy Bridge program. So this is a policy-focused program that's run for youth within Canada, the US, and Germany, looking on researching policy relevant to the clean energy economy transition, which is very cool. It's a part of our research and youth engagement team as well. Next slide, please, which is our team at Student Energy that carries out research projects. What's really exciting about this is all of our projects have been very intentionally chosen to identify where there's a gap in research that exists within young people in energy. So we have our Closing the Gap project, which was focused on kind of surveying employers within the energy transition and youth who are wanting jobs within the energy transition and where there's misalignment in terms of expectations. That's just an example. I won't go through all of our research, but it is really exciting and all on our website. So I would definitely encourage you to go check it out. We also do all of our research with the intention that young people can leverage it to advocate for themselves. So it's very intentional in terms of how it's represented, how it's carried out. So I would absolutely encourage you to take a look. Next slide, please. The final thing that I want to chat about today is our International Student Energy Summit. So once again, this is really exciting. It's a youth-led summit hosted by youth for youth, very similar to, we might have some people who are on the CES team currently in this call, or maybe you're based in Manaus. Applications are currently open, so they'll be open, I believe, for another week and a half to 2 weeks. So I will absolutely share the link in the follow-up email that everyone registered will attend. If you are interested in attending, it is open to global youth around the world, and we try to ensure that there's as much support as possible to attend. So if you're interested at all, I would highly encourage you to take a look and to apply. So with that, I knew I just threw a ton of information at you. I will stop talking. If we can go next slide, please. This is some contact information for Student Energy, our website, how to get involved, and how to hear from us. I'll drop this again at the very end. So if you miss it now, no worries. And I'll also put it in the recap email, so you won't miss any information from today, is what I'm saying. But yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Raji, for working those slides. And with that, Lydia, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Piper. Hi, everyone, and thanks again for joining us today. My name is Lydia Malley. I'm the Director of Professional Development at the Energy Institute, which is the chartered professional membership body for people who study and work across the world of energy. Our purpose is to accelerate a just global energy transition to net zero. We're home to 20,000 individual members and 200 corporate members, including the biggest energy organisations across the world, the likes of BP, Shell and Ørsted, to name a few. The Energy Institute is delighted to be here today in partnership with Student Energy to tell you more about our global community and how we'd like you to be a part of it and to have an important conversation ahead of COP30. We've brought together leading experts from the Energy Institute's membership from Brazil to provide their insights and thoughts on the upcoming COP and provide a chance for you to join the conversation too. I'm really looking forward to hearing their insights. Next slide, please, Raji. But some background to our organisation first. As I mentioned a moment ago, we are a professional membership body for people who study and work across the world of energy. We are a registered charity, so we're not for profit, and we're licensed to award professional registration. So individuals come to us for various chartered titles. And importantly, we're energy agnostic and multidisciplinary. So we're a home for individuals studying and working across the world of energy, whatever their role and whatever their sector. Our global community comprises 20,000 individual members and engagement with 200 corporate members around the world. Next slide, please. So how do we work to create a better energy future? There's a lot we do as an organisation, and we consider ourselves to have three main roles, supporting the global workforce, decision makers and industry. So the first role is around attracting and developing a diverse energy workforce, because the future of energy isn't just about technology, it's about talent and how we nurture it. The energy sector is undergoing seismic transformation, and without the right skills, we risk delaying infrastructure projects, slowing innovation, and climate targets. The Energy Institute is proud to offer a wide range of professional development opportunities, from foundational introductory training courses in energy to technical training courses to leadership development and mentoring, designed not just to upskill, but to future-proof your careers. And we also play a role in broadening access to energy careers. The Energy Institute is committed to creating inclusive pathways through free student membership, early career support for individuals seeking careers in energy, including mentoring and supporting diversity and inclusion initiatives. We have communities and networks around the world that connect individuals to opportunities regardless of their background or geography. The second role we play is convening expertise and evidence to inform energy decision-making. We have a lively annual programme of events, conferences, webinars, working groups, and knowledge-sharing platforms, and we connect professionals across sectors and borders to accelerate progress. We publish a weekly digital magazine called New Energy World, and we're the proud home of the Statistical Review of World Energy. Our extensive resources are balanced and grounded in science and evidence, helping to reinforce the role of professionals and their expertise in the world around us. And finally, we enable industry to make energy safer, more efficient, and lower carbon through a robust technical and innovation programme, which fosters collaboration between its 200 corporate members across 120 countries to address shared challenges from industry, developing good practice guidance and standards for industry to follow and supporting the energy transition in practice. Over 50 technical publications are produced each year driven by industry operational importance. Next slide, please. I wanted to briefly talk through our member journey and how you can engage with us. So we support individuals from student level through to our most senior advanced fellow category. And our hope is that you'll stay with us as members throughout your working life, finding value wherever you are in your career from our offering and the member benefits you receive from us. Next slide, please. And the most important thing that I wanted to share with you today is that our student membership is now free to anyone studying. And we really hope that you'll join us. There's a QR code on screen that you can scan and sign up. It's quick and simple. Joining our global community will grant you access to knowledge resources, events, and a global community of professionals who are eager to support and collaborate. We believe that every aspiring energy professional deserves a place to grow, contribute, and lead, and we hope to be that place for you as you consider what's next in your career. Next slide, please. And what's in it for you if you join? Well, as a free student member, you get access to over 4 million free energy resources, including articles, study aids, knowledge resources, videos, training, and webinars. You get to be part of a global community of energy professionals with networking opportunities with your peers and leaders in the energy sector. And we also offer early career development support with a free professional development tool tracker to document your CPD, a confidential 24/7 support service, and discounts on all our wider training events and technical publications. But most importantly, you get the opportunity to make a difference in the energy transition. Next slide, please. By joining the Energy Institute, you'll have the opportunity to become a part of Generation 2050, which is our global initiative created to inspire, develop, and empower the next generation of diverse energy professionals and facilitate dialogue with the energy industry leaders of today. More than just a programme, it's an intergenerational movement, elevating young professionals' voices and equipping them to shape the future of energy. Through campaigns, events, and collaboration, Generation 2050 fosters professional growth and shared learning, supported by both emerging and established energy leaders, all with the aim of driving meaningful change and helping ensure a sustainable energy future. Next slide, please. Our first manifesto under this initiative was published in 2020, and since then we have run a number of events and webinars as part of the initiative, including this one today. And a specially produced documentary was aired at COP26 in Glasgow, created by a team of Energy Institute young professionals who are passionate about playing a role in combating climate change. It's a really fantastic documentary that I'd encourage you all to watch. Next slide, please. On Tuesday, the 4th of November, we'll be launching a new white paper featuring survey insights from our worldwide young professionals networks and commentary from our global fellows. The webinar will highlight key findings from the report, which brings together perspectives from across generations and explores what they mean for the future energy workforce. It's free to attend, but registration is required, and we'd love to have you join us. And as we look to reflect on the potential outcomes of COP30, let's remember that the energy transition is fundamentally a human journey. The energy systems of tomorrow will be built not just with pipelines, wires, and algorithms, but with vision, collaboration, and human potential. The Energy Institute is proud to support students, professionals, and leaders through training, membership, and a global network that empowers every individual to shape the future of energy. Together, we are building not just systems, but a community, one that is capable, connected, and committed to change, and one we'd welcome you all to be a part of. So if you're not a member of the Energy Institute, please do sign up today. Next slide, please. It's finally time to introduce our panelists. So I'll pass you over to our moderator, Marta, to kick things off. I'll let her introduce herself properly, but she is the Young Professionals representative on the Energy Institute's Council. And we are delighted to have her representing the younger generation of our membership at board level. Over to you, Marta.
Thank you very much, Lydia. And I feel very inspired after that presentation. I don't know about you, but I would go and sign up for sure. I'm a bit biased as well because I'm part of it, but definitely a great institute to be part of. Good afternoon, everyone. And as Lydia mentioned, my name is Marta. I'm the Global Chair for the Young Professionals Network at the Energy Institute. I'm also a Senior Associate at Ikigai, and really excited about today's discussion. It's about what comes next on the road to COP30, and more specifically, how we can move the global transition forward. But that success will depend on making this transition work for all of the regions with its unique context, its unique needs, and its unique opportunities. I saw initially when you popped the first questions that you mentioned the affordability, just transition, community impact, and that's some of the things that we'll touch on today as well. More importantly, as Lydia mentioned earlier with Generation 2050, this conversation is also about collaboration across generations, collaboration across networks, as we're doing today with Student Energy and the Energy Institute. It's how we can work together to really accelerate that meaningful change. And I'm very pleased to be joined by two brilliant voices in the energy sector and two fellow Portuguese speakers as well, Guilherme and Ieda. And I'll let them introduce themselves, but just maybe before we go into the introductions, we've already heard from you what are sort of the key aspects you believe for the transition. We'd also like to hear from you sort of what are your key expectations from COP30. And if you can just go to the next slide, we have another Slido. So if you want to pop in your answers, while we do that, I will ask Ieda and Guilherme to introduce themselves. Maybe Ieda, if we can start with you, if you can just tell us a bit more about your background, how you're involved with the Energy Institute and the energy transition in general as well.
Hi, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. I have a career of 40 years in the energy industry. I'm a chemical engineer by background, but I did two masters, one master degree in environmental engineering and then another one in energy. So I have the two angles. Energy and environment is kind of my pillar for my career. I've been working in Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, but I moved to the UK and British Isles 24 years ago. And I have a career in gas utilities and then with BP in natural gas and solar. And more recently, I became a non-executive director in international companies related to infrastructure, energy, utilities, and so on. I'm a fellow of the Energy Institute and a proud member of the Energy Institute. I really recommend you to join us because it is a vibrant organization. We can find a world of information, but also you can experience something very important for anybody's career, that's connectivity and collaboration. And I'm a member of the board of organizing board of the flagship event of the Energy Institute International Energy Week.
Thank you very much. Maybe now, Guilherme, should we pass it on to you if you just want to talk a little bit about your background?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Marta. And first of all, thank you, you both organizations for the invitation. I think it's really nice to see intergenerational collaboration, but also two different really strong organizations across the globe collaborating to bring the event and with such an important topic. Similar to Ieda, I'm originally from Brazil, but I also migrated to the UK 8 years ago. So I started my career in the public sector of Brazil as a public policy specialist, and it's where I discovered my passion about energy and sustainability, and I decided to pivot my career to the sector, doing a master's here in the UK in energy economics, and that was a transformation. I pivoted to my passion now that I think it's renewable energy. If I can call myself an expert on something, would be solar and decentralize it, because that was what I studied during my masters. But also since then, in the past 8 years, I built my career here in the energy sector in the UK, working with energy utilities, community energy, and most recently with digitalization and AI, trying to use this new technology to increase access and facilitate solving problems that are too complex when we need to execute just as an individual. Outside my life work, I think like volunteering wise, I've been close to the Energy Institute since the beginning of my career here in the UK. I started my path as a member of the YPN London and climbed it to become a chair. And more recently, I've been sitting on the digital transformation board of the AI as an AI advisor, and also as one of the judges for the EI Awards on the youth award specifically, which I had the pleasure to win in 2022. So it's an organization that I have close to my heart, and I'm always happy to be here and foster the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guilherme. I think these are two great examples of professionals on the Energy Institute, and you can see the drive and the passion that keeps going throughout our careers. Piper, Raji, I don't know if there's any sort of answers for the question. Oh, there we go. So maybe we start there. So how are we going to approach now COP30? Maybe to help this discussion, really, I can give some context on what happened on last COP. So COP29 in Baku was sort of framed the finance COP. At the time, sort of countries agreed on the new finance goal, $300 billion per year to be raised by 2035, with a long-term target of the 1.3 trillion per year to sort of help developing countries adapt, cut emissions, recover from climate-related change. They also sort of put forward a loss and damage fund, which is sort of a new fund to support countries recover from disasters like floods, droughts related to climate change. And also there is some agreement, or a bit more of an agreed level for the rules of the international carbon markets around Article 6, which you've probably also heard about, which sort of allow countries to trade carbon credits between them. But how in practice these rules will work still needs to sort of be tested. Most outcomes, though, are still sort of on higher level frameworks. It's important to discuss how to operationalize and to really deliver on sort of these major steps. So I think that is something that we really want to discuss now going forward onto COP30, specifically as it will be in Brazil, near the Amazon. This gives sort of a symbolic and strategic weight in terms of how are we also protecting nature and how are you incorporating nature in terms of the whole climate transition. But it's also about how do we turn finance pledges into actual cash flows? How do we make sure that we are testing the new boundaries around the ambitions? This will be the new cycle for the nationally determined contributions for the countries to the next 5 years. And specifically how we're focusing on a just transition, and a just transition also on a local basis. I can see from your answers there's a few things that you're pulling on here on the net zero agreement, on the NDCs for the countries, but a lot of digitalization, AI, efficiency, automation, something, Guilherme, that would be great to touch on at some point as well, how this fragmentation can be supported with digitalization as well. Maybe I'll pass it on to you now in terms of, Guilherme, how do you see COP30 and what are your expectations into what's coming forward?
So do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. as you mentioned, Marta, this COP will be very symbolic because it will be the first time that you have a COP in the iconic Amazon region. And if you don't mind the comparison, the Amazon region comprises a few states in Brazil, but is larger than Western Europe. Once I flew above the Amazon to go to a project, and I flew 3 hours, and I was still in the middle of the Amazon jungle, to give an idea of the size, of a magnificent size of the jungle. So it's very symbolic, and I think there are 3 words that the Brazilian government, that is the host of the COP, wants to kind of sensibilize the participants in the world. First, this is the COP of implementation, and that COP for implementation requires a Brazilian word called mutirão. I don't know if you have in Portugal, but in Brazil, mutirão is a collective effort where everybody pulls together to achieve a goal, an objective. And the third one, very well taught by the ambassador Correa do Lago, who is the president of the COP, is about also multilateralism. So the countries should come together and the multilateral institutions should come together to develop and deliver on the implementation through the collective effort. So these are the 3 big words. From my point of view, there are 3 priorities that people are discussing now. As you mentioned, Baku and Dubai had different outcomes. But in the case of Brazil, it is about measuring the progress on adaptation, to develop indicators for adaptation that will lead to investments, and also to take stock of the progress of the countries in their national contributions to ensure that we correct the route, because we are a bit out of the way to achieve the 1.5 degrees. So what countries need to do to accelerate and to develop a bankable, financeable investment. The second one that's very important and it's being discussed quite a lot is the definition of what is the meaning of just transition. Because what is the just transition is for the people, for the workers, for the communities. And there is a discussion on developing some kind of mechanism that help developing countries to define exactly what they think in their reality for a just transition, and to develop a mechanism to help them to implement. And the number 3 is about the global stock take. That is the definitions that need to be decisions that have been made in previous COP that will lead to the outcome that is the Paris Agreement outcome, and how we have there are three key issues on paragraph 828 of the latest decision. It's about one, trebling the amount of renewable energy investment, doubling energy efficiency, and transition away from fossil fuels. So I think these will be some of the things that will dominate. And from my point of view, I would like to see governance in a very strong mechanism for financing the transition, with proper governance and proper allocated funds and proper projects that will lead for collaboration between government and the private sector.
From promise to project, is that
Exactly
the way forward? What do you think about this, Guilherme?
It's amazing that I can see even if we had the line, it wouldn't be that coincidence. I think the topics that we selected. I think one important point for me before highlighting the outcomes itself is how representative is COP, right? Like we are going through a moment, I think from a global perspective, where some nations are dropping their commitments or reducing their effort to fight climate change, or it's not becoming a priority anymore. And that is really hard, especially when you have like influential countries doing this movement. And I hope that COP can be this global commitment where the parties come together and keep pushing for awareness and commitment, and demonstrating how important and how urgent is climate change. When we go to the practical aspects, I highlighted 2, which I think it's similar in one point in terms of funding. It is a really special week, I think, for seeing the glass half full and half empty in the journey that we have towards COP30. Yesterday, this week, IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, published a report, and also EMBER data showed that for the first time in history, renewable energy generated more power than coal. And I think this is the half glass full, right? Like it's a transition that is pushing for decarbonization of our electricity system, the production that we have. And it's a motion, especially carried forward by solar, but also by wind in this transition. So we can see that there is a journey there, and we are accelerating towards progress there. If we get the half glass empty, we never emitted CO2 as we did this year. So 2024, last year, was the peak of CO2 emissions. So rather than decarbonizing and reducing emissions, we are in reality accelerating towards more. And that is a risk, right? Like we don't have that much time when we talk about the future, and the impact that we are starting to see with extreme events, weather events across the globe. And that's why it's so important to guarantee that in addition to the actions that we are asking for, that we have the finance to sponsor them. So the IRENA report highlighted, for example, that the South America region would need $500 billion per year until 2035 to achieve keeping on pace of the net zero journey. And we were discussing Baku, 300 billion for the whole globe. Right, so Brazil has a huge collaboration with the Baku Climate Roadmap for finance to announce $1.3 trillion per year, and I think it is a big challenge. It is ambitious, but I hope we, as a entity, can achieve that as a event, and organizations and the nations can contribute, but not just making claims, delivering that. It's essential. And I think that the second outcome for me is the action agenda that Brazil is trying to implement outside COP. And I think this is important because COP is a week in the year, and we need to find actions 365 days of that year to implement what is required. COP is important for awareness, is important to gather everyone together and reinforce our positioning, but activities and actions on the ground with projects, with funding, needs to happen around the year. And I think this is an important action from the government to say, yes, we are hosting, but we want to see action after that and before as well. So these for me are my two key outcomes. This one is funding, and the second one is that we do action in addition to the COP event.
Thank you, Guilherme. And I think those two themes are definitely key on delivering. I think both Ieda and you touched on the point where we need financing and we need all of these tools, but we also need to deliver. When do we get to deliver, and how do we sort of go forward on delivering? But delivering, it's not necessarily the same process, the same approach to all of the regions in the world, right? So if we look at local context, geography, policy, infrastructure, the community needs, they're all very different. So in terms of looking at how do we apply the financing, how do we apply deployment into the different regions, how do you see those energy transition needs, opportunities across the globe?
Well, in terms of decarbonizing the energy, we have like three critical tasks. One critical task is clean up the power sector. Clean up, and that represents more or less 49% in terms of reduction. Means that you have solar, we have wind, we have hydro, we have batteries, we have nuclear, we have pumped electricity. Some of these projects or some of these type of technologies, they are available now. They are tested. Solar has been there for 3-4 decades now, wind as well. Therefore, they tested and the cost curve has decreased among time. So I think the world is going to progress. In some regions will progress more than the others. I see, for example, the case of Latin America, South America in particular, where you have countries like Brazil that generate 80 to 93% of the electricity, depends on the year when you have more or less water in the hydro reservoir, generate with renewable energy. In a country like Brazil, for example, we have most of the cars and the lorries, they run on ethanol, bioethanol, and with a mix also biodiesel in heavy-duty vehicles. In a country like Chile, that is another totally different from Brazil, they don't have all the resources, but they have a lot of sun and wind. They've been implementing renewable energy across the electricity generation in a very speedy way. And instead of going to other solutions like they're trying to do hydrogen, but they have a lot of batteries now because they don't have a lot of transmission lines. So Chile, South America, implementing the transition in a different but more very effective way. The second critical task that we need to implement in terms of going towards the objective of the Paris Agreement in energy and decarbonization is electrify everything that's possible. And when I mean electrify everything that is possible is put heat pumps in your house for heating your house, making it warmer, electrify transportation. And also we have a possibility today where you have insulation, because one of the targets of the previous COPs was to increase energy efficiency, reduce waste. These are also technologies that exist, technologies that are available and can be deployed. But some of them are deployed in different ways. For example, electrification of transportation. Europe has been a leader on that. So you have lots of possibilities now, electric vehicles, China as well. Latin America is going through a different road. They use more biofuels instead of massive electrification. It's coming, but in a different pace. And this is also very important. That represents more or less 41% of the efforts in terms of decarbonizing the energy sector. And the third one is clean up the residual, that means 10, 11%. That's the new technology. So developing hydrogen economy, develop CCUS, carbon sequestration, utilization, bioenergy. This requires a lot of efforts and investment in R&D and also scaling up and make it more affordable. Today, some of these types of clean up the residual are very expensive, not so affordable. And I saw the word affordability in our slide. So we need to make these residual ones more affordable so people can enjoy and we can clean up the rest. So that's the key issues. But the energy transition will be different in each region because the resources are different, and the way that society evolves is different in different continents.
Thank you, Ieda. I hear a lot of let's use the resources in each region to produce energy. Let's do it efficiently, but there's also here the demand. What is the demand, and how do we cater for that specific demand, and how do we do all of this affordably and in a just way and with the right financing? So it's not necessarily an easy way to proceed, but it's definitely the right way to proceed, right? How do you feel about this, Guilherme? What are your views in terms of a couple even successful transition projects that you've seen on a regional level?
Yeah, and I think just to complement Ieda's point, the problem is also different across the regions, right? Like, if we get the global south countries today, Ieda's point is excellent in terms of like the rate that Brazil has of electrification and renewables on our energy matrix. On the other side, Argentina achieved 39% only of like renewables generation. So then we are talking about neighbor countries where the reality is different from the problem that they need to tackle and the sources and resources that they have available to tackle the problem. And at the same time, if we think like the African region, we are still talking about 600 million people without access to electricity. It's like we are not talking about how and what sources we are talking about, they still don't have access. It's basic basic service that they need to increase development in terms of education hours that they can have, quality of health. Electricity is an engine of this transition, and that's why I think when projects needs to think to the reality of the countries, but that's also important to have local organizations helping to identify what are the priorities, because sometimes I think it's a risk of events like COP can have is this top-down perception that funding will be used and it's responsible the contribution to every country to do the same. And I think it has been a long debate between this trade-off of developing countries looking to say, I haven't contributed as much on CO2 emissions, so I shouldn't contribute as much on the funding side. And I think this debate is something that blocks us from moving ahead and going to implementation, because we are still defining how much each nation should contribute rather than what exactly should we use that money to implement the transition. I think China is a great example on this journey, on the perspective that on the downside, they're still launching new coal power plants at the moment, but at the same time is the country that installed most solar and wind compared, if compared, like adding all the West nations from the G20, and they are now reducing the dependency on coal. So we can see that it's like we cannot just say from one position saying coal should be banned and there is no way, because there is a transition that's happening and they need to keep growing economically as well. But at the same time, we need to look for the long-term stability that we're going to get and let the countries also manage their autonomy decision of like how they're going to achieve the indices and just push for more ambitious aspects. And if I can get like one example, I think on local projects, I think solar off-grid with batteries is a good alternative in the short term, especially for regions, remote regions, for example, in Africa and also in the Amazon basin, where it's too expensive for you to get infrastructure from the grid connected today. But you shouldn't wait for when this will be bankable to give access and quality of energy to the people in these remote communities. So we can see technology, when it becomes more affordable, pushing these capabilities and access to these communities to access and enable the energy transition to them. I think we just need to be faster, right? Like Africa shouldn't be doing the renewable transformation transition now, considering that every other country that developed already started 15, 20 years ago. I think we need to find a way to leapfrog global south countries to install these technologies faster. And I think part of this is policy and stability. So companies and the private sector can be confident that their investment will also have a return, which we know it's important to make sure that we get these technologies on the ground.
I mean, can I jump on this? Because I can give you an example. More than 20 years ago, when I was working for BP Solar, we had a program called Rural Solar that will do exactly what you mentioned. We go to developing countries. We went to Philippines, we went to Angola, we went to Brazil in the rural areas, and we install solar panels coupled to equipment to help the communities to have self-sufficiency in terms of economic output. So they would develop some workshops. They would also have refrigerators for vaccines. They would have some system for water filtering. So the community is a solar panel or some solar panels coupled with batteries, exactly what you said. And we couldn't get this implemented all over the world because it was more like a grant type of scheme. But this is a type of project that multilateral financial institutions like the World Bank and the European Development Bank, the African Development Bank could implement with multilateral or bilateral money. And that will help in countries where you do not have huge infrastructure and bankable projects in the beginning to accelerate access to energy, but accelerate access to clean energy.
Thanks, Ieda and Guilherme. It's interesting because if we think about it and throwing here a big word, is this customerization of energy? Because this is something that has been discussed in previous years around how do we enable self-sufficiency? I mean, we see the dilemma between the UK that's doing a whole grid reform on its national grid and taking sort of that top-down approach, defining where the batteries, the solar, the wind are going to be connected to the grid. How are we structuring that from sort of a national level? Versus a situation where we see in India, in China, and so many other countries where it's actually the customers that are putting solar panels on their roofs. And it's the opposite in the sense that if they can't, in a way, wait for the national infrastructure to be ready to deploy, they're just going to do their own self-sufficient way of producing energy. And that sort of raises another point there around the transition is not just about a climate transition, it's also about affordability. And it's also about a commercial opportunity for financing. And it's also about stability and resilience of the infrastructure of the future, right? So it's interesting to see how if we shift the view around COP, but just generally around the climate transition into, it's not just, bringing forward funding, bringing forward new policy. It's about understanding how this is also an actual commercial and a human opportunity for the future. And I just want to touch on an interesting point you mentioned there, Guilherme, which you said it's about stability on policy, which enables funding, but it's also about the skills. You can't just throw funding at the regions, but then how do you know what the priorities are? How do you know how to create these regional hubs and efficient energy? How do you know where the best resources are to deliver for the demand that the community needs? So maybe if we move on to that part of the skills and sort of what's required going forward, I mean, in a way, skills is education. It's also the generation of the future. And I think it's a little bit what we're trying to do here today is how do we work together cross-generationally? How do we share knowledge between generations? And how do we move forward with all of these sort of new technologies, but also with a lot of very good experience on what works and what doesn't work? So if you can, pull a wall forward in terms of how students, how young professionals can have a powerful role to play on shaping the transition, where would you start?
If I can start on this one, yeah,
Yes.
I will connect with the part of the goal that the Brazilian government has on the action agenda being outside COP as well as in COP, and I think for young people, my first advice is to build, join, and grow communities of action. We have seen here at the beginning two big opportunities with the number of programs that Student Energy offers, both to build develop capabilities, skills, but also to meet people that has common interest on being part of the transition. And I think my experience with the Energy Institute was also like that with the young professional networks and the from awareness, it's already an action on growing that, but also from the diversity of ideas, right? Like if you are connecting with communities in countries where they haven't gone through the same transition yet, or they are studying a certain technology, I think that is like a sharing these capabilities among the community is really important. The transition that the actions you implement in your neighborhood, in your job, in your workspace, in your city, in your country, they grow. Like I really believe on a bottom-up transformation as well, because part of this is behavior change, right? Like we are also the cause, not only the solution for the problem that we are tackling here. And the second one is, if we talk just about COP, you also have many opportunities to participate as a young. You have the chance of they have a dedicated youth day. You have the youth COP happening normally 1 or 2 months before the event happens, and this is an opportunity to again be more active on the voice of representation you have in these events, but also connecting with regional organizations that are creating these communities or strengthening them to be able to do more with their skills and develop more.
Thanks, Glenn. Ieda, do you want to comment on it? Sort of, you're a fellow now, right? So, I mean, you're a true leader of the energy world, and you've managed to stay a true leader the whole time. So how do you portray that to the professionals and the students starting their career now? How do they stay relevant and how do they really help?
Yes, I was a student many, many years ago and a young professional many, many years ago. And I think there are two very important things that young professionals need to take into account. First, before saying what the two things is about, I agree totally with Guilherme, by the way, but there are two other things that I would like to add. First of all, you young people are the ones that are going to inherit the planet, and you are the ones that are going to make decisions in a few years' time. So in order to do the right things, take the right decisions, in addition to community or practice engagement, like Guilherme said, there are two things that I found fundamental. First, you need to be technically capable. So you need to bridge your disciplines, you need to have a knowledge on technical, digital, sustainability in order to be a professional of the energy industry that you make a difference. The second thing is about innovation. So instead of as sometimes we in the developed world, we have the tendency of complaining and seeing things too negative. I think we need to change the mindset and see how can I collaborate and can I add in terms of innovation, new ways of saying, critical thinking. So that is also something very important for a professional that wants to engage in the energy world. And finally, and I agree with Guilherme, you have to engage. We live in a global world with communities. We can always learn from one country, one reality from the other. Doesn't mean that you want to do the same things, but you can always learn and learn from what other countries, other people are doing. That's very important.
Thank you very much to both of you. Honestly, I think this is a great way to maybe stop here for a second and see if we have a couple of questions from the audience. I can see Julia Ferrari. She asks about how can we balance the urgency of decarbonization with the need for energy security and also for social justice during the global energy transition. I think we've touched a little bit on some aspects of this. There is one aspect we didn't really touch much on, and I'm curious to see what you think about it, which is the digitization bit. This was mentioned in the beginning, Ieda, you just mentioned it now. Maybe should we use this opportunity to see how do you see digitization supporting the transition, and specifically on these sort of regional collaboration, but also in terms of how we foster innovation going forward on that basis?
We first, digitalization and all things related, they will help to first provide more efficient systems. So increase the efficiency of the process of the energy world, energy process. You can put sensors to reduce emissions. For example, if you have a digital twins that you emulate your factory, your refinery, your power plant, you can do preventative maintenance before the problem happens. So many ways of using digital to increase efficiency and improve efficiency as well. And the second one is how to use digital to design new technologies, because we're going to need new technologies. We're doing solar, we're doing wind, we're doing some biofuels. Perhaps we're going to do other things like hydrogen, CCUS in a larger scale. But it will help also digital and technology and innovation will help to develop new systems and new technologies that will help in the longer term as well.
Thank you, Ieda. What do you think, Guilherme?
Yeah, I'm before I jump on the digitalization side, just to address part of what Julia's point. If we think today, solar is already cheaper technology than any like fossil fuel power generation, for example. But we still have places where we're struggling to substitute one to the other. Of course, that technology-wise, one is intermittent, the other one you have this continuous capability of generating. But I think here carbon price is really important to address part of the social justice side. Like we need to pay the real price of the negative externalities that these more carbon intensive technologies have to guarantee that the competition is fair. for countries, for communities, for in a global perspective, that it like the access will happen, because then finance will come with a fair competition rather than the amount of subsidies that we have today pushing more fossil fuels to the grid rather than renewable energy. When we talk about digitalization, I think Ieda technically already explained part of like the opportunities from a technical perspective of the energy system. So I will connect it about the skills. If there is one thing that is really important today that AI is enabling people to have, is access to knowledge. It is the barrier we had in the past of being such a like complex topic, no one could access, no one knew to use, you had to program, you had to code. Now with a one question to that many platforms available, you can quickly learn about a new topic and even research in a depth level that before you would have to go to school, you would have to waste like invest hours to get to the same level of knowledge. So this is good in terms of digitalization from a skills development perspective, and it's new, right? Like if we look at 2 years ago, we wouldn't be able to think how accessible new knowledge in the energy, in climate, in sustainability was as it is now. Of course, that you're going to have risks. You're going to have challenges in terms of equality of access. If we think like data centers with the digitalization, everything we talk about AI needs electricity. And that is the big rush at the moment. That is part of the reason why last year CO2 emissions raised, is because these data centers today are being powered with net gas, with coal, because there is a huge spike in demand that wasn't planned. So we need to understand how we're going to go forward also with AI to guarantee that this transition is also clean, fair, and accessible to everyone. And this includes also developing data centers in global south countries, which today 70% is located in OECD countries. So it's really unequal as well how accessible this will be in the future.
Thank you very much, Guilherme and Ieda. I think it's fantastic to see how together we can create agency into the climate transition, but that agency is about how do we make it competitive? How do we make it affordable? Let's just be pragmatic about how to really transform these energy projects into something that makes sense. And a lot of it could be around decentralization. It's about local delivery and how do we target those with the resources that we have, which are really sort of that collaboration, the right network, which is part of what we're trying to sort of do here today, both with the Energy Institute and Student Energy, but also is about how do we use the right training and digitization for that right training, and how do we spread the right information across the globe so that we can build on that innovation that will really allow us to accelerate the transition. So I guess pragmatism and innovation, and if you agree, Ieda, Guilherme, is probably what we really want to take away for COP and what we want to take away for the next steps in terms of the transition, really. I just, again, wanted to thank you for your incredible insights and for being here today, and everyone else that has also participated on the session and it's interested in participating on and being active on the transition and how we can move forward together. I might just invite you all, if you're not already part of the Energy Institute network, as Guilherme was saying before, that you can join the Energy Institute, and you can also join one of our young professional communities. Feel free to reach out on that basis. If you see there's not a community already in your region, go ahead and create one. We're here to support you as well. And if we can do it in partnership with Student Energy and one of your chapters, that's ideal. So just sort of a call of action on that basis. Thank you again, and I'll pass on to Piper for closing the session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for that conversation, the discussion, the follow-ups. I feel like everything transitioned so smoothly and is really exciting to hear about how COP30 will go. yeah, so thank you for the wonderful conversation. If we could just go to the next slide, please, Raji. I just wanted to mention that we will send a recap email that will have the slides and a ton of links to get involved with both Student Energy and Energy Institute. There's a lot of really excellent opportunities for youth. So if you did miss anything, just know that you will receive a recap email, as also I'm sure that there will be plenty of people who will be watching this recorded who wouldn't be able to meet us in the live session. But with that, we can go ahead and wrap. A final round of applause to our two speakers and Marta as a moderator as well. So thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're here to support you and help you get involved with us. But yeah, lovely to see you all. And I hope you all have a great day, a great evening, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.
Pavel.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Don't hesitate to reach out if you need to contact us. Yeah, we are here to help and connect.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.